Utah County boy. Grew up in Orem, Utah, and in the early '80s when you could ride your bike across town, and there were a lot of orchards in the area, and a great place to grow up. So I was a kid. My dad is a mortician. He spent a lot of time at his work and working hard and taking pride in what he was doing.
He was a fine young man growing up. We did a lot of sports together. I was able to coach him in Little League and some of those kind of things, and we had a lot of fun.
When I was younger, it was all sports all the time. I would be playing football or baseball or some other sport. You know, I was an offensive lineman in high school, and I'm nowhere near big enough to play at the college level, so I obviously had to find a new point of focus and a new place to put my energy at that point. And so that's what I kind of dove into academics a little bit more and started to really enjoy school. Politics was always kind of talked about in my family growing up. We took a cross-country trip to Washington, D.C. And happened to be in the city right on the 4th of July, and that was kind of a moment when the political bug bit me when I first contracted Potomac fever, I guess. I got to know the Hinckley Institute through one of my friends from Orem, also a Utah County person who came north for school, Courtney Macbeth, and started working there a few months after that.
Well, my history with Matt goes back a long ways. We actually are both from Orem, so I saw him up at the University of Utah, and he actually was taking a class from Kirk Jowers that I was a TA in. Matt and I always used to joke that we were one of the few people that made it out of Utah County to the right school in Utah, to the University of Utah.
I first met Matt at a summer class that I was teaching at the University of Utah. I was still living in D.C., and I decided to teach a 2-week intensive course. And Matt turned out to be the smartest student I think I've still ever had.
Matt Sanderson was a young man who came here with the goal of being outstanding and going on and making a contribution in life in a pursuit that he was very, very interested in. He is a natural lawyer.
I think that Matt is extremely smart, but he's also wise. And I would trust him with anything. He's just full of integrity. And he really takes initiative. When we were remodeling the caucus room, he was on staff there, and he just took the initiative to kind of manage things. He just had great ideas, and he had great follow-through. He's a good organizer.
He's the hardest worker I know, for sure, and if he's going to do something, he does it right. The quality of his work means a lot to him. That's important. He doesn't ever want to put forward something that's not his very best. He does a pretty good job of balancing family and work and everything, but it's a lot, and he just has the attitude that if he's going to do it, he's going to do it the best, and he's going to do it right. I don't know anybody that's as driven as Matt.
I joke with my wife that maybe Utah football is the only thing I love in this world outside of my family. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but it might be roughly true.
University of Utah football can make or break Matt's weekend. And he always says to me, I don't know how I base my happiness on 18 and 19-year-old boys, but I do.
Senator Orrin Hatch is asking President Obama to have the Justice Department investigate whether the BCS violates antitrust laws.
A PAC is a political action committee. It's an acronym for political action committee, and it is founded because you want action on a particular political issue. It started as a bunch of angry Utah fans, and as we began to dig into the existing system, into the Bowl Championship Series, became apparent that this was a filthy system.
I remember some of those early conversations with Matt where we said, how can this BCS system exist? Why does it exist? And one of the early connections that was made was all of the lobbying and sort of the influence that the BCS system had here in Washington, D.C.
Before Matt and his Playoff PAC group started to look into the bowls, they had a halo around them, right? You had images of men in colored suits waving in parades, and kids living out their dreams in the Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and Matt and his group were really the first to point out look at these tax filings and what they show. And what they showed was that you saw massive amounts of money going to junkets where athletic directors were wined and dined, so that they would then spend enormous amounts of their university's monies on tickets that went unsold. It was just a loop of greed and in some cases avarice, and Matt and his Playoff PAC group helped close that.
So Matt is a political law attorney, and my dad still doesn't believe that's a real thing, but it is, and we made a living off of it, and Matt still does. We represent candidates and political parties and super PACs and political action committees, things like that.
When I first got the call from the Colbert Report, and they asked if I would go on the show and talk about how PACs worked, I walked down the hall to Matt's office and stuck my head in and said, I just got this odd call from New York, something called the Colbert Report.
Stephen and his team were not only able to understand the minutia of campaign finance, but they were able to make jokes out of it, which is a whole other level of horsepower. I think that's very smart.
I am here to represent your voice, so please quiet down.
Matt's kindness, calmness, and intelligence are what sets him apart. He is undoubtedly a brilliant attorney whose campaign finance expertise and sense of humor made him the perfect person to advise Stephen, the Colbert Report, and all of us as we brought attention to this topic.
So Matt is a partner at Caplin and Drysdale, and what you should know is that he became a partner 2 years before he should have, before basically anyone else in the history of Caplin and Drysdale has become a partner.
We made him a member early because it was important for clients to know that we had that much confidence and trust in him, because he was running major clients, our work for them.
I'm really proud to be a Utah man. I think it's a unique place that I love to go back to, and I've stayed involved at the U with the Hinckley Institute, and I plan on staying involved in one fashion, in one way or another, for the rest of my life. It's just that kind of a place for me.